Well, hello, hello, hello. How's everybody doing? What a day. Happy Tuesday, you guys. I hope it was good for you guys. It was good for me. It was a busy day. I'm glad you guys liked the intro. I spiced it up a little bit. The mods will be along. I'm sure. I feel like sometimes how YouTube rolls, they they only give you so many notifications in a 24-hour period, and I did two yesterday. So, I see you, YouTube. That's why I made a community post because YouTube be trying it. See who we got in here. There's a mod. That's a Shamina. Let's see. Let me say hi to everybody. Hey, Carolina Moon, Rescue Mom, Ashton, Aries, Mo, Jane, Diane. Let me see. Kay Braze, Vanessa A. Good to see you guys all. Crime Sleuth, and hey. Mark, how you doing? It's been a minute since I've seen you. Amelia Sparkles, hello. AJ, hello. MK, what up? Hey, Michelle, good to see you. Let me see. Eye in the Sky, hello. Pointer Lover, hello. Truth Teller, I knew you'd be in here. I knew you couldn't quit me. Y'all, Truth Teller's been doing the real work over here. She has pointed out that Mr. Alec Murdaugh is not standing when he's supposed to because he's rude. Amanda, how you doing? Hey, Christy. Hey, Petunia. Jessica. Good to see everybody. I said hi to Shmita already. Will be. Hello. Natalie. Let's see. I don't want to. Hey, Sharon. The Eye in the Sky, hi. I think I already said hi to you, but I don't know. So hi again or hi for the first time. All right. Well, y'all, what a day, what a day, what a day. I don't know how many of y'all know, but I'm sure y'all do. Old Buster himself took the stand today. And I mean, I don't have anything like completely there's not a whole lot to even really add about Buster. I mean, of course, we're going to talk about it, but honestly, I think he might have actually messed up for the defense, not helped. Which all he was really, I mean, we talked about this before. Like, what could he possibly be up? What could he possibly be doing? What could he possibly testify? He doesn't know anything. Um, you know, Yada yada yada. And I mean, he doesn't. He really couldn't add anything other than, you know, mostly character and maybe try to put some stuff into context. But to be quite frank, he didn't actually do that great of a job at putting stuff into context. I mean, it is what it is. I mean, he did his best. He only, he's not a miracle worker. He can only do what he can do. Hey, April. He did seem indifferent to literally hey, essay, everything. He was just, he's very aloof and it comes across as detached. But I, when you have a person in the family, and now I don't know how Maggie was. We only know a little bit about Buster. I mean about Paul, but Alec can be quite emotional, as we've all witnessed. Now, whether that is inaccurate or those are real and true emotions, I mean, I do think he's crying. I don't think he's crying for the reasons that he wants people to think he's crying. I think he's crying for himself, and maybe a little bit for the people that he unalived, allegedly that he's on trial for right now. Although Baha'i have learned a lot. I believe that you know. Modine, I didn't actually hear that asked um, outright. I will say that there was a lot of, I was mostly I wasn't super I mean, I was interested, okay, but really what I was waiting for is cross-exam because that's, where people mess up. Like like I when I like do the highlights of the trials, usually I will do a little bit of the direct, but then I like to skip straight to the cross-examination because that's where I feel like that either the testimony stays together or it falls apart. And so I never heard them straight ask him that. And if they did, um, well, Mo, the thing of it is that Buster has been asked if he's supporting his father directly by the press, and he says he's not. He doesn't. He what? How did he put it? I'm not. You shouldn't infer anything from where I'm seated. And I don't want to, and then he said, I don't want to see anything printed that I'm supporting my father. And that's the truth. So, and if you look at the gallery, the audience, what I've noticed is mainly the spectators are all sitting over there on behind the defense table. I mean, I don't really think it's like a wedding where there's a bride and a groom side. I don't think people sit on the side that they are favoring because a lot of the I noticed that a lot of the prosecution side is journalists, and then for at the beginning of the trial it was their witnesses. So, I don't know. You can make that of what you will. Hey, faraway eyes. So anyway, I, I don't listen. I'm not going to infer anything from Buster. If Buster comes out and says, "Yeah, I support my dad. I don't believe that he had anything to do with the murder of my mom and my brother," then I'll take him at his word. But just where he's sitting and, a biting of the nail that was a middle finger to one witness, I mean, it is what it is. I don't know. I'll wait for him to speak. He can speak. All right. Before we get started, though, I got to show you guys this real quick.
And Kai, when you're on Jen Lou's channel, what do you do with the like button?
Smash, smash, smash! Yeah.
All right. So if y'all haven't done so already, please give your girl a thumbs up. Helps get the notifications out, gets me in the algorithm, gets me suggested, all the things. So, hey, coolest reviews. Oh, the case is over anyways? Well, then what are we all doing here? Hey, truth teller, thank you. Welcome to the Kookaloos. All right. So, I mean, it is what it is at this point. We'll see how it is. Hey, Vanessa J, good to see you. Let's get to it. All right, let me remember what the hell I'm supposed to be doing. All right, here we go. Share screen. I'm going to put the closed captions on for you. I am going to speed Mr. Murdaugh up a scotch, just because there's a lot to go over with particularly it's not over already, Corkies. I think Mo's just being funny. Mo's just got jokes. Oh, I can hardly, no way, Jose, am I ASMR? No way. I annoy myself. I don't know how you guys even do it, to be honest with you. I don't know how y'all listen to me. I can't stand my voice, but thank you. I don't think it's over. I think we're a long way from it being over. But I want to get right into Buster's testimony today, or as allegedly with Brittany, Jace calls him Bert. Um, but I want to, because there's a lot to go over with their expert witness today. So here we go. Let me make sure I even have the sound on. Oh, I don't. Haha. Here we go.
Raise your right. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you give today will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? So help you God. Thank you. You'll have a seat up on the witness stand. Adjust your chair and your microphone.
Okay, I lied. I forgot about something. So CB Kell asked me a question, and I told I said that I would address it tonight. So let me get over there to it real quick. She wanted to know two things. Let's see. All right. After today's testimony with Buster, do you think it's a possibility that Brooklyn, Buster's girlfriend, could have done a lot of the cleanup around the Moselle home morning after murders, explaining some of Blanca's odd findings away? I think that's an excellent question. And honestly, that's probably the most reasonable explanation. And whoever was over there that evening, late evening, after Alec went through his entire contact list and called everybody over to the house, I do think that it's natural to want to try to help in that situation, not realizing that it is truly, and it's not their fault. It's Sled's fault. Sled should have shut it down. They shouldn't have let anybody stay there. They should have closed the entire property off and declared it a crime scene. We know that the Murdaughs have 11 billion different houses that they could have gone to that are close by, and they all could have, built forts in the living room and had a great big old slumber party. And they should have shut that. Sled should have taken control of the home and called it a crime scene, period. And they didn't. But I think for, Buster's girlfriend, I do feel like Brooklyn, I think it would be natural to just want to help, you know. I will say that it's very convenient testimony. Buster saying that he showered there and he packed his dad's stuff, and it's convenient testimony. And I have to say, well, yeah, truth teller. Yeah, for sure, for sure. I have to say that, and that this is a really good point, crime sleuth. Then, but I have to say that the only problem that I had with Buster is that there's nothing wrong with prepping a witness. It would be normal. Any witness under any circumstances would be nervous, particularly because this is being televised, right? Not to mention that it is his dad. Okay. That puts him in a particularly precarious place. Okay. So I get him being nervous, and there's nothing wrong with prepping a witness. But what you don't want to do is have the witness sound like they've been prepped. And Buster did have that today. He did sound like he was prepped. Like, he remembered the question and he remembered the answer, and it was a little rehearsed. Not the worst thing in the world, but when you're trying to when you're being up there to explain some stuff away, give it some clarification, maybe put it into context, and also, say your dad's a swell guy and a good neighbor. You don't want to make that sound rehearsed. You want that to come like from, your genuine self. So he gets, he might have a couple of points off in the talent portion of the, in the pageant so far. Now, the other question that CB Cal asked was, 2, this is a Stephen Smith question. Have they or would they be able to collect cell phone data for that area and day that Stephen's murder occurred? Ooh, I'll have to get back to you on that one, because I don't know how long they hold on to those records. What I do know with respect to Stephen Smith's phone, which I find very interesting, but perhaps there will be a change now that we know it can be done. So Stephen Smith's phone never could get unlocked, which is interesting because he had like an in case of emergency person who could unlock his phone, which was his mom, but it didn't unlock. And I don't know if, in 2015 they had, how we went through the whole thing with the FBI guy with Paul's phone, and how they, work at it over time, slowly trying to unlock it, because you only get so many attempts. I don't know. So perhaps they still have the phone. SLED does. So perhaps now with that more advanced capabilities, they will be able to get into his phone, and that ought to offer up at least something. You know what I mean? He had it on him when he passed away, so it would be interesting, um, to see what happens. Hey, ATS News, good to see you. Welcome. Hey, Tia Dash, how you doing? So, well, yeah, and this is another good point Tia brings up. He's been sitting there the whole time as well, which that's interesting to me. I've never all the witnesses have been, to be fair, prosecution and defense. They're all allowed to. That there's been no sequestering. It wasn't requested or whatever, so they're not doing it. It's interesting. It adds a different element to the whole situation. And this is also a good point, that Buster is a victim and has the right to be in court. And this happens, this is not uncommon. Usually what happens is, in a situation like this, Buster would not be allowed to sit in court until after he gave his testimony. And that's just usually how it goes. And then they would release him from his subpoena, potentially. Sometimes they don't, though. Sometimes they don't. And they don't get to sit in the courtroom, but most of the time they do. So, Oh, I think the judge doesn't say that every single night, like but they got their instructions in the beginning, and they know that they're not supposed to hit up the Googles, not the YouTubes. Although after the trial, if anybody out there is listening either live or on the replay, and one of your family members or somebody is on that jury and they decide they want to talk, call me. I'd love to hear what they have to say. I would be fascinated. But yeah, they're not allowed to. Karen from Will and Grace. I actually love her. Megan Maloney, I think is how you say Maloney. However, I can't say her last name, but yes, I love her. She's hilarious. Thank you. That's a compliment. Okay. So now that we've dilly-dallied enough, well, not really dilly-dallied, because I did answer a question. It was a good question. Both those questions were great questions. Let's get into it. All right, Buster, let's see what you got, buddy.
If you'll state your full name and spell your last name.
Richard Alexander Murdaugh Jr., Murdaugh. I go by Buster.
Mr. Murdaugh, is your father sitting over here at the defense table?
Yes, sir.
Tell the jury a little bit about yourself. Where you're born, where you're raised, where'd you go to school?
Right. So my name is Buster, 26 years old. I live in Hilton Head Island, South Carolina. I was born in Savannah.
Mo, if you're speaking with them, could you give them my contact information? It's in my about section.
And lived in Beaufort for about 2 years when I was a little child. We moved to Hampton in about 2000, and I grew up in Hampton, went to Wade Hampton High School. And after high school, I went to a small college in Spartanburg called Wofford.
Oh my gosh, I totally forgot
Yes,
about
sir.
that.
And your brother Paul?
Yes, sir.
So if you guys missed it this morning, there was a little kerfuffle in the courtroom because it seems our friend Jim has done it again, and he's he retweeted some article that was speaking negatively about the prosecution and some of the witnesses, et cetera, and how SLED handled the case, yada yada yada. And the judge was like, "It's not really against the rules, there's really nothing like implicit and explicit about you doing that." But many people, and he's not wrong, you could infer that somebody would only retweet something that they agree with, particularly if they leave no commentary, right? If you don't agree with something, you would retweet it, or really wouldn't retweet it. You would reply to it, but whatever. Sometimes people don't know about the Twitters and how it works. So whatever, but it really does sort of imply something. And although it's not expressly against the rules, it's not a good look. Jim. I don't know what Jim is up to. The only thing I can think of is that Jim must really want to try to get the best chance he can at Alec getting an ineffective assistance of counsel appeal. That's all I can think of why he does the things he does. They seem kind of asinine, if you ask me. Okay.
When you moved to Hampton, do you remember how old you were when you first moved to Hampton?
3 or 4.
Okay. And did you live in Hampton, in a house in the city limits?
The jury's
Yes,
not
the
going to
town
see
limits.
that. If
Yes,
they're
and you did
doing
that
their
for-
job, Mo, then they're
with
not
your mom,
going to
dad, and
see.
brother for how long?
Hold on a minute.
For
The jury, if they're doing their job, they're not going to see that article. And if they do see that article, then we're going to have a mistrial and there's going to have to be another trial. They're not allowed to look at media sources.
around 20 years.
Right. What schools did you go to coming up through in Hampton County? What you go to grade school?
Went to Ben Hazel Primary School, Hampton Elementary School, North District Middle School, Wade Hampton High School.
And as you were growing up, what were your interests, Buster?
Sports, playing sports, doing things outdoors, hunting, fishing.
And was your father involved in those interests with you?
Yes, sir.
And was your mother also?
Yes, sir.
And in what way?
Well, my father coached every little league team I played on up until I started playing for the schools in which had a coach.
And what about Paul? What were his interests growing up?
Paul's interests were outdoors, mostly hunting, fishing, playing around in the woods.
Right. Did he also play sports at times?
He did. Yeah, he played
Hey, Mel.
basketball and baseball.
Did your dad coach him as well?
He did.
These
would
are
your
just the
parents
softball
Attend
questions.
all of
Will
your and
be.
Paul's sporting events as you're growing up?
Every game. And it was a rarity for them to miss one. And then if they had to, they would call and explain. And
Right. And
Wait a minute.
at some point in time,
Wait a minute. Who would they be calling and explaining? I sound like a dadgum owl. Who would they be calling and explaining why they couldn't coach a little league game? Usually I don't know. Just this comes off so disingenuous. I can't.
parents
I'm
buy
gonna
this
give you a
property off
break.
Moselle Road.
yes, sir.
Give me a break,
Remember roughly
Buster.
when that was?
Be nice.
Right around 2012, I think. I would have been a sophomore in high school.
And when that property was first purchased, did you move out to Moselle or are you still
There's
living in
LFT. Hey,
So we had a
hey,
house in
recliner
Hampton
detective.
and also purchased the property at Moselle, which had a house. And for the beginning stages of owning Moselle, Hampton was still working as our primary residence. But I believe it was Hurricane Matthew, or one of the hurricanes came through and blew a bunch of pine trees over on the house. So it had to get work done to it. And from that point, we moved out from Hampton to Moselle while the house was getting fixed. And more or less, it just it never transitioned back to Hampton. It just almost like Moselle became the primary residence.
And during this time, did your family also have a house at Edisto?
Yes, sir.
How frequently would you stay at the house at Edisto?
Very frequently during the summertime, almost every weekend.
And when your family essentially relocated to the Moselle property, making it primary residence, were you still living at home in high school, or do you remember how old you were at that point in time?
I'm sorry, Doug. What you said?
Were you living at home at that point in time? Was that while you were still in high school or
Yes.
school? You remember when when you transitioned to Moselle and started staying there basically full time during the school year?
So when I was still in high school, we were living in the Hampton house, and then I'd gone off to college,
Okay.
which is when the stuff happened, and they moved out to Moselle. So I was living in college.
And when did you go off to college?
2014.
Okay. So sometime after
We're going to get into the
2014,
expert witness,
family
Mo. I
relocated
promise.
to Moselle for the most part
That's right.
because of the hurricane damage. Is
Yes,
that-
sir.
Okay. Tell the jury a little bit about the Moselle property. I know they've heard a fair amount, but I think you probably
They
know
did-
it better than anybody.
They didn't
So the
ask
Moselle
that.
property it's roughly 1,700 acres. And a lot of that is really not even accessible. It's a lot of swamplands, a lot of stuff that you just, no road systems or anything like that.
All right,
But
we're going to skip through you just a scotch,
a big portion of it
Buster,
is-
because I don't want to be rude, but some of these questions are super
17
Sounds right.
easy.
Okay. And
And
what
it-
color was your 300 blackout?
it was black.
Here we go.
And have you been sitting in this courtroom during the entire trial?
Yes, sir.
And the jury's
This
seen
is
a
the
black
part we
300
want
blackout.
to.
Is that yours?
It is. That is my 300 blackout.
Was that the one you got for Christmas?
Yes, sir.
And what color was Paul's?
Paul's was black and tan.
And when you say black and tan, what part was tan and what part was black?
So the receiver would have been tan, and and barrel would have been tan.
What part would have been black?
Stock, maybe.
Okay. And so yours was all black, his was black and tan.
That's right.
What happened to his that he got for Christmas in 2016?
His gun was apparently stolen, lost, taken.
How do you know that?
That's just what Paul told me.
What happened to your gun after Paul's was stolen?
My gun became, what we would both use.
And did that create some confrontation between you two at times?
Yes, sir.
And why?
Well, kind of like I just touched on. So he would use it. He's not very good about putting it back where he found it. I leave it somewhere. I go back and, want to get it, and it's not there.
Did
Hey, Marshall
did
Duff,
you,
good to see you.
notice, were you aware that Paul got a replacement at some point in time?
No, sir.
Well, you heard about that in the courtroom.
Yes, sir.
Trial. Okay. But up to that point, did you ever see Paul use the replacement?
No, sir. I've never seen a replacement.
So every time in your presence, Paul was using a 300 blackout, which one would it be?
Mine.
There's, I'm not going to put,
All right. Now, this is problematic. I cannot understand this testimony. And I mean, obviously, I understand the words. I understand the words that he used, right? But what I don't understand is why. I'm very confused about this because, correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't Alec say there was a replacement or there wasn't a replacement initially and Buster said there was, or was it the other way around? Because this seems to be contradictory. And correct me if I'm wrong, but wasn't there a family member that also testified that said Alec bought the replacement from him? Is that, I mean, am I in an alternate universe here? I don't understand this. Okay. I don't understand why they thought this was a good idea. I really don't. Alex said in his police interview that he had a replacement gun made, as did them. Yes, that's what I thought. That's what I thought. And he explained the replacement. Yes, and it was the cousin. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. So that's what is very confusing to me because this is quite contradictory. This is and actually this doesn't help. Okay. This really doesn't help the defense at all. In fact, I think it might actually hurt them. So the only 300 blackout that Paul ever used was Buster's. So then the old shell casings from a 300 blackout, the ones that were weathered, et cetera, those according to Buster, would have only come from Buster's gun. And then wasn't there DNA on the shells found at the like near the bodies, and wasn't that DNA Paul's? Because this doesn't make this seems like a bad idea. A horrible idea. Truth teller, I don't think so. I don't think so. Granted, there is nothing good will come from him testifying. The truth is, if the whole roadside shooting situation had not been allowed in, maybe I would say it's not really ever a good idea for a defendant to take the stand, because obviously they're subject to cross. But the problem with Alec taking the stand at this point is the jury has heard him out of his own mouth admit to lying to police during an investigation. I mean, just straight lying. And, all the things. That's not a bell that you can unring. You don't want to put somebody on the stand who's admitted out of their own mouth they're a liar. That's bad business. So no, I don't think that would be a good idea for him to take the test, for him to get up on that stand. That's not going to be a good idea at all. At all. Be a horrible idea. Do it, Alec. Lisa, I do agree. I think it's problematic, or not problematic, interesting that they didn't have a security system on their property. I also think that it's interesting that, thank you, AJ. I also think that it's interesting that there were never reports. Now, I understand you can't report like smack talking, right? Like nobody reports that. I get that. You don't call the popos, but but Alex says that there were physical, and I would just want a paper trail, if it were my kid, but I don't know. I think it's all weird, honestly. All right, here we go.
Pull these guns out, Buster, but there's been this discussion, and the jury has seen a 12-gauge Benelli with a Mojo sticker on it. Whose gun is that?
That's mine.
And what's Mojo?
Mojo is a brand of decoy. It's basically what it is it's, say you buy a wood duck Mojo and it sits on a pole, but the wings are motorized. So it's to replicate, a more alive duck.
And did you?
Okay, but Mo, here's the thing. No, the defense you're absolutely 100% correct. The defense does not have to put on a single solitary piece of evidence. Okay. But the fact of the matter is they did. And so now we're going to discuss it. And the truth of the matter is that is not the whole story of what, how he arrived at his opinions. Yes, he used the pictures at SLED. That is true. From SLED. He used crime scene pictures, but he also went out to the property himself twice. So it wasn't all just SLED. All right, let's keep going.
Why's your?
I gotta let the dog out. So y'all are stuck with Buster for a minute,
in the
okay?
box, it came with a sticker. I put the sticker on the gun barrel.
And so that way that's your gun.
That's right.
I believe the evidence in the case is that Mojo Benelli, when it was seized, was loaded. Did you frequently put the gun away loaded?
Yes, sir.
Why?
Knowing that I might need it again at any point.
I like this part.
Put it back on the shelf. I kept safety on.
Okay. And I
I
think
just
it was
muted
loaded with a
myself.
3
I
inch
meant
and a
to
3.5
push
inch
pause.
turkey load. Do you remember?
He's like, I kept the safety on. It was kind of a little endearing moment. I just thought it was kind of cute.
That you would load
All right, I'll be right
that
back. I
gun
gotta
with
let the dog
a
out.
3 inch and 3.5 inch?
Yes, sir.
And why would you do that?
I do that because when I go turkey hunting, the goal is to, get the turkey close to you and shoot it in the first try. But if I were to miss and the turkey goes running away and I try to shoot it again, I put a bigger shell,
I
larger shell
appreciate your
behind the
honesty,
smaller one
truth teller.
for that purpose.
There's some reasonable doubt,
And
a
that's something
lot
you
of
commonly do.
reasonable
Yes, sir.
doubt.
Did you ever load in a 12 gauge, 20 gauge, 28 gauge, a buckshot followed by a
All
bird
right,
shot?
I'll be right
No,
back
sir, I've
for
never
reals
done that.
this time.
You ever
okay?
known anybody to do that?
No, sir.
Do you know of any reason to do that?
No, I can't think of any reason to do that.
And specifically, have you ever loaded in any gun a buckshot followed by dry lock steel waterfowl pellet?
I have not.
You know anybody to do that?
No, sir.
You know any reason to do that?
No, sir.
And you ever seen any guns on your property loaded in that fashion?
No, sir.
Buckshot with some sort of bird shot right behind it.
No, sir.
The jury's heard testimony about goings and comings, which way you go in and go out at Moselle. How many entrances were there at Moselle? 2
entrances.
And will you describe the 2 entrances?
So the main entrance is pretty much straight out of the front door of the house. You would go down a dirt road and then you would come up on big brick columns. And that's what I refer to as the main entrance. But down by the kennels is another entrance. And that one is a little bit different. That one has the mailbox beside it. And those are the 2 entrances.
Okay. So let's talk about coming onto the property. Which entrance coming onto the property would your mother normally take?
I would say normally everybody took the main entrance unless that there was a reason that you needed to go down the other one, which for her reasons of going down the other one would be the mailbox. And also when we got packages delivered from Amazon, they actually would go to the shed as opposed to the house.
So your deliveries would go not to the yellow or whatever white house that you lived in, but down at the shed.
That's right.
Okay. Now, leaving Moselle, the property, which way would you, Alex, your mom, Paul normally go leaving Moselle?
Out of the main gate.
And if you're going to Alameda, which way do you turn coming out of the main gate?
To the right.
The in 2020, 2021, during the summer months, where did your mother prefer to stay?
At Edisto.
And where were you staying, say, in the spring, summer of 2021? Where were you living?
Spring, Moselle.
And then summer, where'd you move to?
I was down at Edisto a lot in the summer.
Okay. And then, and where was Paul living in the, say, spring of 2021?
Spring of 20 or 21?
21. Now, maybe I said the wrong thing. In the spring of 2021, where were you living?
Spring of 2021.
Did you have an apartment in Columbia?
Yes, I did have an apartment in
You
Columbia.
split time between Columbia and Moselle, and
Yes, sir.
you have a girlfriend?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And then in the summer of 2021, well, in June, where were you living?
Between Columbia and between Rock Hill.
Okay. And who lived in Rock Hill?
My girlfriend's mom.
And then in the spring up through June of 2021, where was Paul living?
In Columbia.
He had an apartment in Columbia?
Yes, sir.
And was he enrolled at University of South Carolina in the spring of 2021?
Yes, sir.
And then once school got out, you know where Paul relocated to? Anywhere?
No, not exactly. I know that. I think he went down to live with John Marvin. He was working for him for the summertime.
And who's John Marvin?
My uncle.
And what kind of business does John Marvin have?
He has a rental business and he sells Kubota tractors.
And where does he have store locations?
One in Okatee, one in Hampton.
And was Paul working at the Ogatee location?
Yes.
Just sort of backing up, did you and your dad and mother and brother Paul do a lot of things with your mother's family, the Brandstetters.
Yes, sir.
What type of things would y'all do?
Well, we gather every holiday, and other than that, we would do trips together. We would go down to Key West, go over to my Aunt Mary and Uncle Bart's lake house, river house, just
Right.
stuff like that. Take trips, family trips.
And I'm just going to pull up on the screen, Doug, Defendant's Exhibit 122, which is in evidence, Your Honor. And Buster, take a look on the screen, and I believe your Aunt Marion testified about this. Can you tell the jury what this photo is?
This is a photo of me and my brother and my mom and my dad.
And was this taken in, I think, May 21? You were up for a baby shower, is that right?
Yes, sir.
And where was this?
So this is this is at Lake Kiwi in a community called the Reserve,
And y'all are visiting with whom?
with my aunt and uncle, Aunt Mary and Uncle Bart,
And for what purpose?
for my oldest cousin's baby shower.
All right. And was events like this unusual or
No,
fairly
sir.
frequent?
They're common.
And was your father close with Maggie's dad, your grandfather, Papa T, as it's been heard in this, it's been known in this courtroom?
Yes, sir. He was.
What kind of things would they do together?
They would do a lot together. For a long time, there was my grandfather had a camping trip, and Papa T frequented the camping trip. He liked that. Dad and Papa T would go to Carolina sporting events together, play golf together.
And did you spend a lot of time with your dad and your grandfather, Papa T?
Yes, sir.
You play golf with him?
Yes, sir.
We'll get to that in a little bit. And let's talk about your dad's side of the family. Was it a close knit family?
Yes, sir.
And your grandfather, your dad's father, his name was what?
Handsome.
Handsome. And that was a nickname, I think.
Yes, sir. It's what grandchildren called him.
Everybody-
Well, it started as grandchildren called him, and then all of our friends started calling him that.
But that was Randolph Murdaugh.
Yes, sir.
And then your grandmother's name, Libby.
Okay. If I don't say it now, I'll forget again. All right. So, this video. All right. Remember I talked yesterday, and we've all talked about this, the video on Paul's phone, not the Snapchat video, the video that was intended for Rogan that never got sent. Well, I had forgotten that nobody knew. It was a while before people knew about that video. Okay. And so I was thinking about it. And at the time that that Rogan told law enforcement that he'd heard Alex's voice when he was on the phone call with Paul, and he said it in front of Paul's or Alex's in-laws, Maggie's mom and dad. And I was like, why didn't he say something then? Why didn't he get ahead of it then? Right? If it was trauma, because Modine brought that up last night. Like maybe he was traumatized. And I mean, I can imagine it would be traumatizing to do it, or even just to see it, period. Either way, it'd be traumatizing. But anyway, and that was a good point. I can sort of see him being traumatized, but he certainly wasn't. So then I started thinking about it, and the truth is, I've been pondering this. It's the lawyer in him that is not letting him change his story. It's better to continue with a lie than to change your story. I'm just telling you. I've been thinking about it a while. I've been thinking about why wouldn't he try to get ahead of this, and no, she does true crime. Modine, she does true crime. But anyway, that's the deal. Like, it just made me think about, like, why didn't he come clean? And now that I remembered that, I have also seemingly have forgotten some of the details, like specifically when they unlocked Paul's phone and was able to extract that information. But I feel like this so the crime happened June 7th, 2021. And I think that it was late 2021 or early 2022 when that phone got unlocked and they extracted that information. But still, at the end of the day, the video is there. It is his voice. And the truth is, a lot of people were wondering if on cross, if that question would be asked. So maybe we should just get to the cross, because the gun part was the important part. I felt the rest of this is kind of, whatever. He does show him a picture, the last picture the family took together, which was in May, the end of May, for a baby shower. Hold on, I think I skipped too far.
Do you remember what time you got the Moselle?
Oh,
It was early in
We're
the morning,
still talking
late in
to
the morning.
Jim. He
you know,
showered,
if we
yada,
left-
yada, yada. He had his
And
dad.
so after,
His dad was supervised
Children's
by him for, at least
boyfriend.
every day for a couple weeks or so.
in September, early September 2020, you were when was the first time you heard him say they did him so bad?
First time I heard him say that. Really don't know.
I don't either. But sorry about your grandfather.
Okay. And what else did he call? He cleared up they did him so bad, or I did him so bad. Now, to be quite fair, the first time I heard it, before he was asked about it, I heard I. And when they slow it down, you do hear they. I feel like it is another situation of Todd Mullis, where, that he's based his appeal on this 911 call. Well, I shouldn't say that. He's not basing the appeal on the 911 call, but he is appealing his conviction. However, somebody after the trial said that they can hear him say, while he's giving his wife CPR, fucking cheating whore, something like that. Cheating whore for sure. And when I heard the 911 call, I didn't know what it was that he was supposed to have said. But I did hear something. It did sound like he said something like that under his breath. It did. But I think it's really neither here nor there. I don't think we're going to ever really have or be able to get a definitive answer on whether Paul or Alex said, I did him so bad, or they did him so bad. So there's that. Now there's this little weird, Todd Mullis. What'd I say? I forget what I said. Well, that's his name. It's Todd Mullis, about the cheating whore during the 911 call when he's on the phone with her. I heard him say it. That's what I heard before. I only knew I was supposed to be listening for something. I didn't know what I was supposed to be listening for. So I put earbuds in and I listened, and it does sound like he says cheating whore, something like whore for sure. But anyway, I just don't think we're ever going to have a super definitive answer on whether or not Alex said I did him so bad or they did him so bad, because quite honestly, depending on how it's played, it sounds like both. Okay. So yeah, the corn rate killer. All right. Then there's this real uncomfortable exchange. So let's watch this really quick. And he doesn't really offer a whole lot. So I just want to play this exchange and maybe a few questions real quick, and then we'll get to the defense expert, because I thought what he had to say was interesting.
Thank you. Cross-examination.
That was the first trial that Criminality Teresa and I covered together, and Schmida and
Yes, sir.
Mo was on Rottweiler Investigations.
First, I'll tell you, I am sorry
That
about
was
your
a-
mother. Sorry, I can't. I'm sorry about his mother. And I'm sorry about your brother.
Thank you.
And I'm sorry about your grandfather.
Thank you.
He was nice to me when I was a young assistant solicitor. I'm sorry for your loss.
Yes, sir. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Also,
I don't have any questions for
hold
you.
on.
Okay.
What is that lady doing? Is she speaking the words that they're speaking? Is that how the court reporter works? Let me rewind it because I talked through it and it's very uncomfortable. And I don't know what the beef is between these two, but the tension is palpable. It's so awkward.
I'm John. And I want to first off tell you, I am sorry about your mother.
Sorry, I can't hear you.
I'm sorry about his mother.
Step back.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry about your
the
brother.
poop does not like
And I'm
him.
sorry about your grandfather.
Thank you.
He was nice to me when I was a young assistant solicitor. I'm sorry for your loss.
Yes, sir. I appreciate it. Thank you.
I don't have any questions for you, Buster.
Okay.
When you are leaving the main house, you told Mr. Griffin that the main entrance was the brick entrance,
Yes, sir.
but there's also a side entrance or by the kennels or
Yeah.
entrance exit.
Yes, sir.
All right, so we're not going to watch a whole lot of him because hi Lolo. Not yet. Not yet. And okay, Ellie. Because well, now that I've heard Buster speak, Buster and Alec have a similar voice. It's similar. It's not the same. It's different. I mean, it's similar, but it's if you hear them both talking at the same time, I think you'd be able to tell which was Buster and which was Alec. Okay. I don't think that the defense wants to bring up that video on their own. And the reason the prosecution didn't ask the question is because, excuse me, you never want to ask a question you don't already know that, you don't know what the answer is going to be. And I don't think that, I don't know. I mean, Buster is under oath. Okay. And I just don't think it would have gone well. I really don't. I mean, hey, Angry Mimi, I mean, what happens? The prosecution asks him and he says it is, right? I don't think he would say that. I would think he would say, I can't tell who that is, or it's Paul. He could say many things. And, and exactly right, MK. At the end of the day, this is where the prosecution is in a bit of a conundrum with Buster, because Buster is the victim of a crime. It was his mom and it's his brother. And technically, which I find this very interesting, and it's interesting that there are jail calls between Buster and Alec, because even though Alec is his dad, he is the perpetrator of the crime. And typically, they don't allow the accused to speak to the victims. And in this case, Buster would be a victim. I remember when they were, I don't even want to say this word, but y'all brace yourselves. Watts. Remember, it was a sticky situation between, Cindy and Ronnie with respect to Chris Watts, and they had to get permission because technically they're crime victims, and he is the accused perpetrator of that crime. At that time he was accused. Now now he's subsequently been convicted, but before they go to trial, they will tell the accused, you can't have any contact with any of the victims. And so it's a sticky situation. Well, here's the thing. Yes, Mo, he is innocent until proven guilty. But what I'm talking about is, I'll give you a prime example, a recent example, Brian Kohberger. When the last hearing that he had, there was an admonition from the judge, he not contact any of the victims in this case or their families. That's just standard protocol. That's just what they do. And so Brian Kohberger has the same, innocent until proven guilty. So I would think that they would want to have these calls analyzed, but I'm not sure. I don't know how great that technology is or how reliable that technology is. Like, I can't think, and this just doesn't mean it's never happened. It's just that, my brain only has so much space, and I can't actually recall a single case where they have used voice analyzation. So it would be a precedent setting case, that it would be, if they did it in this case, it would be precedent setting. And, not all that, hold on a second. I don't know how that would work. I'm not an attorney. Like, I know some stuff about the law, but I don't know all the things. So I feel that's out of my purview of things that I can discuss. So on the verdict, honestly, what do I think the verdict will, I think that Alec Murdaugh did it. That's my opinion. I think it is more likely than not that he committed this crime. As for the jury, I do think that Friday was an excellent day for the prosecution. I think that timeline really answered some questions, kind of streamlined it, put things into perspective. But now this defense expert, they might have put some holes in it. So, it's difficult. It's difficult. This is not going to be an easy task for these jurors. And I would be very surprised if it was a quick verdict. I would be very, very surprised. So this is the part. Oh crap. Why did I do it this way? I'm always messing this part up. So the next part that we're going to watch, thank you. Shout out to Law and Crime for their breaking up the highlights of the expert witness, because he was on for an incredible amount of time today. And I do happen to agree with the ones that the highlights that they picked out, as they are the important parts and they are the highlights. So now we're going to hear part of his testimony. So here we go. Let me put the closed captions on. I've got it all done. I've added it to the screen. We're good. All I got to do is push play. Okay, go.
Right there. What, if anything, did we hear from the state's experts about the relative position of Maggie and whoever shot her?
The only thing that I heard is that maybe 2 of the shots were done at less than 3 feet because of stippling to the skin.
And what about
Hey,
the relative
Seth,
position
good
of the
to
shooter
see
and
you.
prior to that?
Nothing specific or definitive.
Okay. So, let's see the next one. What is that?
This is a shooter, because this shot's going down. This shooter is shooting from the shoulder, which can be done with this shot. And if you're shooting from the shoulder, you got to be further back. So that's just to illustrate. That's the range of possibility, from the shoulder, from the hip,
or down low. Those two we just saw. Is that also consistent with where the shell casings are?
Okay. I have to admit something really quick before we get into it anymore. Today I was watching the trial in Law and Crime, and I did make a comment respective to this footage that we're seeing here, the reenactments. Now, while I found the reenactments helpful, low-key, they did remind me of like the Terminator, the T-800 or whatever it is, and I did make that comment, and I did say you can't be trusting Skynet. I did say that. I did crack a joke. I'm not joking about the seriousness of the crime, but the fact that I understand why he chose to make them nondescript, but they look like little Terminators. They just do. And now that I'm even closer up, I'd like to amend my statement to say they look like, the bucket of army men you used to be able to buy, the plastic green ones, only these guys are gray. Okay, that's all I wanted to say. I'm not going to joke anymore.
It is, that could be consistent too.
Okay. Next slide, please. Both shots. Go ahead. So what does this depict?
So this is
No,
the
they
shooter
laughed.
making both shots. And you'll
No, MK, they laughed. Because, they laughed. They laughed at me. A lot of people said, that's what I was thinking, Jen Lou. That's what I was thinking. And, of course, I had to put Skynet in all caps because that's all I can ever think of. You can't trust them robots.
see, and there's a couple different angles I could show you, but they're really close. And they're in the right location relative to the empty shell casings.
Okay.
So what that says, I'm not saying it's exactly there because there's some variables to it, but I find it interesting that the two shot trajectories cross at a point where both shots can be made, and they're at the right location relative to those empty shell casings. So in my opinion, when these two shots were made, at least these two shots, that the shooter was standing right in that area.
Okay, next. And what does this depict?
This is the same thing I just described, except a little bit different angle. So there you may have a shooter taking 2 steps forward, depending on which one was fired first,
Right.
or 2 steps backwards. But, within a generally small area, those where those shots were fired from.
Okay, next. Is that the same?
That is the same thing. That is, the shooter's from the hip. If you
Hey,
have the shooter
cement
shooting from the
shoes.
hip, it makes a lot of sense that
Good to see you.
with a little bit of movement, the shooter can produce both of those shots and have it agree with the evidence that.
Yes, Mrs. M,
especially
it should
orally
drop at midnight.
Okay, now we're going to, don't go to his, well,
Hey,
Check it out.
Kentucky Lee. Good to
based
see
on your
ya.
analysis of, and tell us how you came to conclude the range of heights for the person shooting from those distances. Tell us how that works.
Okay, so we're able to locate the weapon, where the weapon was, and that's,
Now, when you say locate the weapon, what do you mean by that?
locate the weapon on the green line. Okay,
So
so,
you say locate the weapon on, is it the muzzle? Is it the? what
whole
is it?
barrel.
The whole barrel.
right,
Okay.
because the bullet starts its path inside the barrel, and when it leaves the barrel, it finds the target.
Okay,
The
so you can slide
Netflix,
that barrel up and
let
down
me
the green
pause
line.
this for
Correct.
cement
Okay, tell us how you get
shoes.
to a height.
Okay, so cement shoes, it's the Murdaugh documentary on the Netflix. Now, I can't figure out if I'm 5'4", am I in the circle? Because some of this testimony was a little confusing to me, and that's why I only wanted to go through highlights of it because I need time to process.
Height for the shooter.
So for the purposes of what I've been showing you is that I started putting different height people in the trajectory analysis. And so what I've been showing you is a person that's 5'2".
Versus how tall? The shooter's how tall?
5'2",
Could be someone a little taller, crouching down a little bit?
could be,
5'3", 5'4"?
yes.
So between 5'2" and 5'4"? The
Yes.
shooter.
Because what happens if, let's say, if you put a 5'4" person even, or 5'5", 5'6",
Marshmallow,
kind of
you
that
can
shooting
stay
position
if
from
you
the
can
hip,
be,
you've
if
got
as
to move
long
them
as
all the way
you're
up to the
being
quail pen.
respectful.
And it doesn't make any sense there because there's no shell casings, and it starts to not make any sense. Why would a person stand right in front of the quail pen a few feet away and shoot into it?
And as you slide it back.
Okay, Low Country is on
What
HBO
happens in
Max.
terms of, and this is all trigonometry? These are angles?
It's just trigonometry. So again, you have 5'2" people. What happens is if I move those people back,
Well, just take the
Well,
quail
you
pen
can't
to begin
spam
yeah,
the
with the
chat,
quail
so
pen,
now
if
come
you start to
on,
move the shooter quail back,
Marshmallow.
then you're down to, you start getting to,
You're
less
gonna-
than 5'2" very
you're timed
quickly
out for
because
300
that shot
seconds.
is going up.
It's
And
also Murdaugh.
what you have here is that this is as far back as basically I
But
could justify
Murdaugh
putting
is
a
kind of funny.
5'2" shooter.
And how did you come to 5'2"? I mean, what, did you look at any data?
Well, again, these are actual people that were scanned in, and so these are 5'2". What happens is, for instance, if I tried it with a 5'4", I tried it with a 5'9". It just
Why didn't that work?
because it puts the person under the shed close to the quail
There are
pen.
the stars.
Doesn't make much sense being under there. There are no shell casings there. So
Yes, we
in order
talked
to get the
about it.
shooter at the cross of the
We
two
did BR.
shot trajectories near the empty casings, then you've got to lower that shot.
Okay, next slide, please.
And Marshmallow,
Okay,
while you're
let's look at this. Okay, some
having
measurements, we
your
don't need to look at each one
while
of these.
you're
Go
having
ahead.
your time out
Go
to
ahead.
think about
Go
things,
ahead.
do me a favor and give me
Go
a
ahead.
thumbs up or a thumbs down. It doesn't
Now,
matter. Just the
Let's
interaction's
hold on for 1
helpful.
second before we go to
Please.
that. So in terms of Alec Murdaugh, who is, how tall is he?
6'3", 6'4".
Okay. And you took a measurement of him this morning, correct?
Yes.
What did
Okay.
you measure?
I measured to his kneecap.
Okay. This is there are some issues I had with the reenactment and the way that it was shown to the jury. So I would have preferred if he would have put that PowerPoint presentation together as more of a side by side. So, because he had it at different heights, which I understand for comparative purposes, I get it. But the way that it's been shown to the jury, it really is like they're trying to, it makes it appear as if they're trying to push that there were two shooters. It gives the impression that there were two shooters, and it's fine but how should I put this? It's I think a dicey proposition for you to show a reenactment as an exhibit to the jury and have two shooters in it instead of doing in the same frame, instead of doing a side-by-side comparison without coming out. It's like you're trying to sneak something in because they aren't actually saying that there's two shooters. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, that's not what the purpose of the exhibit was. He was just trying to show both heights in the same frame. But it has the appearance of trying to push that there were two shooters. And it can be confusing, especially when you're not allowed to take notes and you're hearing a lot of information. There was a lot of information given today, and God left the poot, honestly. But he sometimes the way his style of questioning a witness is it appears like I'm doing right now, sort of bumbling around a little bit, kind of bumbling and fumbling and can't really quite find the words. And I just feel like it's a lot. You know what I mean? I don't know. Thank you, Mrs. O. I think you guys are great too. You guys are just
To his kneecap.
the
And
best.
how much, what was the distance between the bottom of his foot and his kneecap?
25 inches.
Okay, now explain why that's relevant to what we're talking about.
Well, I mean, the obvious question is, well, what if you were 6'4" and not 5'2"? What does that mean? So what that means is that the shooting hand, the bottom of the shooting hand,
See, I
for
thought
somebody
that
to hide
the
Alex Murdaugh
cross-examination was stellar,
right
Zart.
at and
I really
below
did.
his kneecap.
I thought they did a
His
good
shooting
job.
hand would be below his kneecap.
Yes.
What does that tell you?
Well, it puts the shooter or whoever fired the weapon, if they were that tall, it puts them in an unrealistic shooting position. It's not an aiming position. It's not a shooting position. It would be something other than a shooting position where you were
Oh,
on your feet.
thank you, Seth.
So it would
Glad
be,
you dropped in and
um,
showed support.
Again, it would be very
I appreciate
difficult. You would
that.
have to be
Thank you
bending
so
over
much.
and have your shooting hand down at or below your kneecap. And what's important about that to me is that it just makes it very unlikely that a tall person made that shot.
More likely that it'd be more likely that a person between 5'2" and 5'4" fired those shots, correct?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. See, thank you, JT. You put this in a much better, more succinct way than I could. This is what I was trying to get at. Oh, well, thank you. I'm not going to, Dimite Nobis. Welcome. I'm glad you found me through Decipher. Thank you. I feel like I kind of tend to agree with this. I feel like you can take the difference between this expert and the state's expert is that the state's expert was trained in those fields. Like he was a gun owner himself, so was familiar with firearms, taught firearms training, all the things that you would want. I feel like, cement shoes. Oh, he does look like Jigsaw and Cousin Eddie from Randy Quaid, Cousin Eddie. But the real Cousin Eddie, or the Murdaugh Cousin Eddie, does look like, yes, he looks like Randy Quaid and Jigsaw if he were smushed together. Very astute point, and thank you for the super chat. I appreciate it. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know how the jury's going to take it. It's a lot of conflicting information.
I have, yeah. Maybe. Can I have a red or black pen or something? Oh, I think I'll take the red one.
Oh, this is an important part right here. Let me just rewind it a couple of 2 seconds. Hold on.
Red or black pen or something?
Let's watch this. From now on, I think that I would like for all of my writing utensils to be presented like this. I want. Looks like he's a little like a butler handing out hors d'oeuvres. From now on, that's how I'm going to demand that my writing utensils be presented to me in such a manner. Now, to crime sleuthing. All right, let me see this. But the first expert the state hired, Bevel, out of Oklahoma. The state didn't like his report, so they used the next one who gave them what they wanted. I didn't like that. Wonder if the defense will call him. Well, the defense definitely has access to both reports because they brought it up. If there was a conflict in the report of any significant or meaningful information, I would imagine that the defense would put him up. All right, here we go.
I think I'll take the red one. Yeah, that's fine. That's red. Thanks. So I had one of the.
I didn't see that.
The shooters and their alignment blown up.
Ellie, I totally missed that.
And then the point. And you stand over here.
Mostly because I had the last 2 loads of laundry to do. I had dishes, and
explain to the jury
I had to
why
clean the
they've got these
bathroom.
5'2" this is blown up.
So I was only
Um,
listening.
why
I
would you
couldn't
not put
see.
I mean, how, if this guy moves forward this way, or either one of them move forward,
Let
what
me
happens to
look
the
and see
barrel?
if I can
Yeah,
identify
so
her.
what
Mrs.
happens is
O.
if you move them forward, they can be taller up until a point where we talked about before. At some point in time, even shooting from the hip, you still have to be very close to the quail pin. If I move them back, either two things have to happen is they have to be even shorter than 5'2", or they have to be in some unnatural or kind of like an unreasonable shooting position. I mean, obviously you could have somebody laying on the ground taking a shot. They could be really low, of any height, right? So, but what I'm doing here is that as you move these people back, the gun has to be lower and lower and lower to the ground. When you move it forward, the gun has to be higher. So then you start looking at, well, where are the shell casings? The shell casings are here. So if you move a person back, let's say where they're laying on the ground, right, and they're shooting like in a sniper position, like on their elbows and laying down flat, there's no shell casings back there because the shell casings are being ejected to the right, maybe to the back, we don't really know. But at least it's going to be back here. This area where Maggie's body was found, where the collection of empty shell casings are found, because some of these were close range, but some of them are spread over here, is going to put
Listening to this
the shooter
testimony
here. Well,
makes
certainly
me
puts the weapon there.
understand the
And then
Poop's
what you have to do
questioning
is go through the thought
of
process of
the
how can
state
somebody
witness.
hold the weapon that height off the ground?
Okay, now, if you've got a tall person and they're coming this way towards the quail pen, let's say a 6'3", 6'4" person, can they, how close would they have to be to the quail pen to shoot the bullet at that angle? Into the quail pen?
Well, it would be
Oh,
difficult. It wouldn't be either a hip shot or a,
stop the presses. Mighty just brought in a amazing point and something that I did not even catch. This is a good point. If Buster said that Alec Murdaugh had clothes at every property they own, why did Buster need to gather clothes to go to one of them? That is a fantastic and excellent point. And one that I didn't even consider because I don't own multiple houses. So if I'm going for a sleepover, I got to pack a bag. Even when I go to my sister's. Now, my sister's house is different because she has, the same lotions and potions and stuff like that. So I don't have to bring all the bits and baubles and doodads, but I do got to bring clothes because we're not the same size. So that is an excellent question. Thank you. I've learned a lot. Thank you very much. Thank you so much. Now, y'all are coming in with the good questions. Y'all are asking the important questions. I'm over here worried about how people are going to present my writing utensils to me. And y'all are paying attention to the actual trial and actually asking important questions, noticing all the things. Well, shit.
shoulder shot. You would have to, for somebody who's tall, because again, not a tape measure, but the hole in the quail pen is a 4'2". Okay, so
We got one right there.
so let's just say, see a sticker or something.
Any what? A sticker?
So quail pen shot is right here.
Yeah, like a sticker right there.
This is a good question, too. Let's see. Interested in opinions. Is it more reasonable the shooter was 5'2", or more reasonable the shooter was crouched or kneeling? Hey, C-Star. Here's the deal. This is my thing. We're just going to go reasonable here, I would say it would be more reasonable if it's somebody crouched. That's what I would think. But I always sort of envisioned the first shot to Paul I don't think it was intended to be fatal. I think it was intended to stun and prevent him from potentially grabbing a weapon or his phone and calling 911? Because I was thinking about it, and let's just follow me here for the sake of argument. I know that there are people in the chat who don't think that Alec did this, but just listen to my argument for the sake of argument, right? So I always sort of I've been thinking about it, and I was always thinking that the first shot would have been, if he intended the first shot to be lethal. Alec is a hunter, and he could have made it lethal, but he didn't. I think, and that begs the question, why? Well, I have a theory about that too, but this is what I think happened. So the first shot was a stun shot to keep him from reacting, right? And I think if it was Alec and it happened the way that the state theorizes it happened, Alec would have seen him. And I think Alec's initial reaction, because it was his dad, he didn't raise his arms. He didn't do anything that one would think that somebody who isn't wounded fatally and can still move would do to show that they are not a threat, right? You see somebody coming at you with a firearm, right? He didn't do any of those things. So my thinking was, what if he saw his dad coming at him with the gun and his first thought wasn't, Jesus Christ, he's trying to kill me. More, oh my God, my dad just shot me on accident. Like, I don't think he would have thought that it would have been on intentional. Now, the second shot obviously was immediately lethal, and he had no time to talk. But it does explain why he's moving at a slower pace. He's not trying to flee, which I think is interesting. I can't think of a person. Oh, Crime Sleuthin', did you get it on video? Crime Sleuthin' out here doing all the things for science. I just did a wall experiment. I'm 5'3". If I stand with my legs spread apart in a wide stance, I shrink to 4'3". So if Alex did that, his 6'4" is then 5'4". Boom. You think so? Well, that's possible too. I just think it's interesting that he didn't run. You know? I'm going to try that. All right, let's keep going.
Okay, so that's the height that went into the quail pen.
Right. 5'10".
Right.
Right. She's all maybe 5'11", right? So that's 3 degrees up. So I'm saying that's about flat. Let's just say that's 3 degrees. And I'm standing at the quail pen. I would have to do like that, or I could do this, right? Not from the hip. I'd have to come in here like this, which of course is possible, right? Just like that.
What about 6'4"?
And if you're 6'4", it would be, a lot taller than I am. And so you would have to go through that thought process of how the shooter could
And of course, as you come back off the quail pen, the only place you see shell casings are back here.
Yes, there's empty shell casings. There's some right by the body. There's one underneath the body. And then I believe it's 2, 3, and 4 are here. 5, 6, and 7 are here. But 2, 3, and 4 are here. Like the shells are being ejected to the right and maybe slightly backwards.
And so can you say to a degree of engineering certainty, more probably than not, that whoever shot this shot or these shots, well, first of all, the quail pen shot was 5'2" to 5'4"?
That is the most likely.
Yeah, I'll do it too, Crime Sleuthin', absolutely.
And we know that Alec is 6'4".
Yes.
So could you say to a degree of engineering certainty, more probably than not, that Alec Murdaugh on the night of June 7th did not fire that shot into the quail pen?
In my opinion, it's very unlikely that he fired that shot.
Okay, now, in reviewing the SWED file, did you see whether or not they did any analysis like this? Have you seen any charts, any pharaohs, anything indicating that SWED ever looked at these shot engines before?
No.
Okay, go ahead.
All right, so see, I am not enough of a firearms expert. I've never shot anything like anything other than handgun. So I don't have experience personally doing it, and I don't really know a whole lot about it. And so it's hard for me to I'm listening to the expert, both sides, right? The state and now the defense, and I'm trying to understand what it is they're trying to explain. And that part of it I get, like the mechanics of it, I understand their point. I understand what they're trying to say, but it's hard for me because I don't know enough about the types of firearms they're talking about. Like, what if what they're saying is accurate. Do you know what I mean? Like, I understand about blood spatter and stuff like that. That I can argue all day long. I understand, but firearms is a little bit different. So anyway, well, you guys, that's kind of all I had for tonight. Because I don't want to talk too much about the expert because, like I said, I don't have like enough. I don't have firsthand knowledge of it. I don't even have like book knowledge. So it's really hard for me. I don't want to argue a point for, just to argue a point. I want to actually have something, an intelligent argument. So I need to process more of this, witness's testimony. Mo, you liked the poot, huh? Listen, I find the poot, you know who he reminds me of? He reminds me of, what are those two guys that sit up at the top, in the Muppet Show? Golly, their name escapes me. What is their names? It starts with a C. Hold on a second. Let me Google. Just go with me here. Mo. Statler and Waldorf. God. Okay. Statler and Waldorf. He reminds me of Statler, the shorter one. And I can't get angry with, I don't like when he's rude. And what he did today was an absolute distraction. He wanted he wanted the prosecutor to yell like he did. And it took away from the nice gesture that he was attempting to do. And it was a slick move. And I don't really appreciate it. Poot, you're better. Come on. That was like that was just slick, and I don't like that. But then there are times when he'll say something or do something that makes me laugh. So I can't entirely like loathe him or have like, you know what I mean? And plus, there are times when Law and Crime, and I haven't seen any footage from court TV, but there's times when Law and Crime will catch a moment of the poot when he's making a particularly interesting, poot mean mugs. He kind of wears his emotions on his face. He does not have a good poker face, and his faces make me laugh. And you guys know how I am. Somebody making me laugh is like a huge deal, So yeah. Love is too strong of a word, Mo. I'm not one that uses the L word lightly. But I do get a kick out of the poot. I do. I know, Corky, I know you don't like the poot. And I get it. I get it. He can be off-putting. I'm not going to lie. He's had some moments. So, but I will say this. This is an example of the type of defense that money can buy. You think that Cousin Eddie, with his upcoming trial, do you think he's going to have this kind of defense? Prob's not. In fact, I guarantee he won't. So, I have to say, I hope I say this. Is it Demite Nobis? Is that how you say it? They were feisty today, and they were fighting for Maggie and Paul. They were advocating. And yeah. You don't like him at all, C-Star? Right. If it were any of us in this chat right now, we would be under the prison. Let's be real. You know what I mean? So, how come I can't see what T is saying? Oh, there she is. Demite. Oh, it's Latin. Demite. Nobis. Demite nobis. Am I not? Okay. So I just need the bees part I was getting wrong. Demite nobis. All right. Now I got it. I mean, that's true. I've learned a lot. And this is, yes, Shmita, you'd be in the shed behind the prison because you got that slick tongue. Now, I did not hear that. And I have to say that okay, so to me, the South Carolina draw is it's not the same as a Texas draw, but where my part of Florida, where I live right now, most of the people here don't have a twang, and it's nice. I never realized how much I missed a twang. I never I miss Texas, but I don't know if I want to go back there. But anyway. All right, you guys. It's been a great night with you again. Thank you so much. No, it's okay, C-Star. You ain't got to like him. I mean, I'm not saying that I would share my snack pack with Poot. I definitely wouldn't share my Lunchable. My name is not NK with the Poot, but I do get a kick out of some of the stuff that he says. So thank you, Tia. Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody, for being here. I appreciate it so, so much. If you haven't done so already, give your girl a thumbs up. It helps, with the algorithm, and, you get the notifications and all the things. And I just appreciate everybody being here. Thank you for the super chats. Thank you, Truth Teller, for becoming a member of the Kookaloos. And I will see you all tomorrow night. And we'll see what tomorrow has in store for us, because tomorrow is another day. All right. Good night, you guys. Bye.